Hey everyone, and welcome back to another retro auctions, donations, and thrifts video. Hard to believe, but this is already episode number 20. As always, I'm Matt D'Amico, and welcome to Retro Bits. Now before we get started, I'd like to take a moment and thank you all for supporting this channel over the last 6 months, as we've just reached a major milestone of 1,000 subscribers. To celebrate, I decided to spend a Saturday morning learning some 6502 assembly on the Commodore 64 for the very first time. I started with a proof of concept in BASIC, but poking color memory was far too slow. In assembly though, it's blazing fast. Too fast in fact, as getting it to slow down was the hardest part. Anyway, thank you all so much for your continued support and encouragement. Here's to the next 1,000. Unboxing time. And first up is a find from Amibay. This is a mouse for the Atari ST, and it came all the way from Istanbul, Turkey. These things are few and far between here in the US and command a premium on eBay. They seem to be more plentiful overseas and a lot less expensive, even when shipping is factored in. This particular example is dirty and has uneven yellowing, so it'll get the full restoration treatment in a future video on the Atari ST. Up till now, I've been using the keyboard trick of holding down Alt while hitting the arrow keys to move the cursor around. It's far from ideal, and it'll be nice to have a proper mouse to use at long last. That said, I'll have to inspect and clean the sensor mechanism. The mouse works, but it's got some tracking issues, especially when moving in the up direction. After finishing the video for Septandy, I became interested in getting my hands on the final and most powerful model in the TRS-80 color computer lineup. The problem is that because the Coco 3 is the best of the breed and also the rarest, it commands a steep price on eBay. After a long time lurking, I was able to find one for sale in Canada at less than half the going rate, so I jumped on it and took this one home for only $132. So upon unboxing the machine, it appears to be in good physical condition. The only thing that jumps out at me is that some of the keys don't return to their upright position after being pressed. They're stuck in a down position, and even after removing the keycaps, there's no debris or anything jamming them up, so I'm going to have to remove the mechanism and see what's on the other side. So there are a number of things that set the Coco 3 apart from the 1 and the 2. First of all is 128K of RAM, expandable up to 512, or even more with aftermarket parts. Another thing is that the CPU can run at twice the speed when using Coco 3 specific software such as OS 9 Level 2. Now the machine on the back here has finally got itself composite video output instead of just the RF that the 1 and the 2 had, so you can hook it up to a modern television. It also has RGB out, which is here on the bottom with this little pin header. Very strange location to put it, but that's pretty cool, and I'm going to build a cable for that so we can try that out in a future video. So the other major enhancement to this machine is an improved video display chip that offers higher resolutions, more colors, 80-column text mode, and still maintains backwards compatibility with Coco 1 and 2 software. So here's a fun story. I was filming the video footage for the Outrun episode and the doorbell rang. And at the door was my neighbor from a few doors down, and he had seen the 1902 repair video and was into retro computers himself. And in his car he had a number of machines that he wanted to drop off for the channel, and this is the first of them. So most of you will probably recognize the Commodore SX64 right away. For those of you who don't know, this is the first ever portable color computer. It has a 5-inch color CRT, and it's a Commodore 64 with the disk drive and the cartridge port on the top. And it's fully functional, also very, very heavy, and of course does not run on battery power. So at first glance, this machine appears to be in excellent physical condition. The keyboard clips are fully functional, which is a common failure point, and also the keyboard cable is present, which often is missing when you buy these at auction. One thing I noticed right away is, of course, that this cap is not secured to where it should be anymore, so we'll have to fix that. And also the handle, which has this ratcheting mechanism that locks it into place. The mechanism itself doesn't appear to function correctly. They don't lock or unlock like they should, so I'll have to look at that too. So I've plugged the machine in, and let's see what happens when we power it on. Well, that's a good sign. The drive spins up and spins down. It takes a while for this CRT to warm up. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to try and zoom in. So there we go. If you can see that, it says out of memory error. And that happens often when the machine successfully boots up, but there's a bad RAM chip. So it looks like this machine does need some repair. Ah, darn it. So you can often diagnose a bad RAM chip just by feeling for hot chips when the machine's running, but there's very little clearance inside this machine. So I wanted to try and use the dead test cartridge, which will flash the screen a number of times to indicate which chip is bad. So I went into the cartridge port, but I couldn't get it open. And the reason for that was that there is something stuck in here. And it's really hard to fish out. So let me get a screwdriver. Let's see if I can get it out with a screwdriver here. Yeah, looks like it's coming. I can already tell what this is going to be. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so we've got ourselves a little switch, and what I assume this is to switch between regular kernel and Jiffy DOS kernel, and kudos to the person who installed this for not drilling a hole in the SX64, because this is such a rare machine that I would hate to see it drilled into just to install the switch. So this is a good place to tuck it away. It does make the cartridge port a little hard to access though. Let's see if we can get the cartridge in. Oh yeah, that'll work fine. It might cause a problem if you have a cartridge in a plastic case, but it works fine with this bare PCB. Okay, now that we've got the dead test installed, let's turn the machine back on and see if it will help us determine which RAM chip is bad. Okay, so what we have here is the screen is flashing, and it's flashing one time. So we'll have to refer to the dead test manual to see what that means, but that usually indicates exactly which of a number of possible chips could be bad, and then we'll have to test them all and replace them and see what happens. And another thing my neighbor dropped off for me was this, which is a Gridcase 1520 ruggedized 286 laptop. So this is an interesting piece of history. In addition to being super heavy duty and ruggedized, this machine has a very interesting display. They came in a few different models, but this one has a gas plasma display that operates at 640 by 400, and it's very, very power hungry. Now it's very bright and has high contrast, but the LCD model of this machine had a 4 to 5 hour battery life, but this gas plasma display only has a 1 hour battery life. So that's a pretty heavy trade-off for having this high visibility, but in the field you might need that. So the machine appears to work perfectly fine, but one thing I noticed right away is that because of the strange aspect ratio of the display, some DOS programs don't scale correctly and you're missing a bunch of pixels on the right-hand side of the screen. Ever since I was in grade school and I first saw the Commodore SX64 at my friend's dad's house, I've wanted to get my hands on one. So huge thanks to Justin for his generous contribution to the channel. So this next item was a birthday gift from my amazing partner Elaine, who's been incredibly supportive of all my crazy hobbies. Because it's a gift, it's already been opened. But what we have here is the Tarasic DE10 Nano. So what this is a development kit featuring the system on a chip that's an 800 MHz dual-core ARM Cortex-A9 processor in addition to an Intel Cyclone FPGA, all on a single chip. Much like the Raspberry Pi, there's general-purpose I/O, HDMI output, USB, Gigabit Ethernet, and lots of pin headers for expansions. So the ARM processor can run Linux or another embedded operating system, and the FPGA elements can be used for development and prototyping of new hardware or emulation of existing chips. And that's where this thing gets interesting, because in conjunction with an I/O board and a USB hub, you get the Mister. And what the Mister is it's hardware emulation of 8 and 16-bit home computers and game systems. And this thing is really cool, and I plan to do an entire video on how to set this up and configure it, because this thing makes an amazing Amiga 1200 or a Neo Geo, and hardware emulation offers some real benefits over software emulation that you would get on a Raspberry Pi or a home computer. And while we're on the subject of the Mister, I stopped by the thrift store and picked up this VGA cable for $1. It's going to get sacrificed to connect the Mister's 15 kHz analog RGB output to a proper 240p CRT for the maximum retro experience. I've been using SCART connectors for all my RGB capable systems because while imperfect, it is a standard, and that makes it easy to find off-the-shelf cables, switches, and upscalers that use the format. While we're on the subject of thrift finds, it's been pretty slim pickings this month. I did find this Archer DIN plug just randomly laying on a shelf for $1 though. You never know when you'll need one of these, and it's a neat artifact from a Radio Shack house brand that's now just a part of history. And next up is a package that I just got from the UK. It looks a little beat up. I hope it's not in too bad of a condition. We'll see. Not much packing material here. That's why the box is beat up, because this didn't hold up to whatever was stacked on top of it. At least it's wrapped in bubble wrap, so that's good. Let's take a look and see what we've got. Okay, so what we have here is a Commodore 64C from the UK, and this is a PAL model. And the reason I wanted a PAL model is because a lot of the software doesn't run, especially the demo scene stuff, doesn't run correctly or at all on the NTSC models that we've got here in the US. So this appears to be in really good condition. Everything's accounted for here. There is some yellowing. A little Retro Bright will clean this up. The keys are quite faded, but there doesn't appear to be any damage to the machine itself, so it looks like it survived shipping all right. I was curious to see if my North American market 1084S could display the PAL 64's Lumichroma signal properly, since it has no problem with the Amiga when it switches to 50 Hz PAL over RGB. While it appears to sync fine, it doesn't appear to be able to decode the color signal, so everything's in monochrome. No big deal, as I have other plans for the 64C. So the reason I picked this machine up is because it was a fantastic deal on eBay. Not only did it have a low opening bid price, but there was a make offer option attached to the auction. Now, I always understood make offer was so that you could offer people more than the opening bid in the hopes that they would cancel the auction and sell it to you early. But that's not necessarily the case. A friend clued me in that people will sometimes take less than the opening amount in order to cancel the auction early, which never occurred to me. So I've done this successfully several times in the past now, where I've made them an offer that's much less than the opening bid, and people have stopped the auction and taken that offer. And I guess it's because, you know, they want the immediate sale, or maybe sometimes, you know, the old adage is true, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Either way, I got this machine for less than the opening bid, and it was a really great deal even to start with, so couldn't turn it down. I alluded to a plan for that 64C earlier. This next item should give you a pretty good idea of what's coming in a future episode. This stuff was also a birthday gift, but it arrived over a month late. In fact, the most important part hasn't even shipped yet. And last but not least is this part that came to my attention by way of a Twitter post from Retrotective. It's well known that the Amiga 3000 has an insanely loud fan, one that makes it difficult to film even. This replacement should be whisper quiet and is a direct fit for the original part. I've linked to the post in the description that has all the information if you want to perform this update yourself. So that's it for this episode of Auctions, Donations, and Thrifts. All of this stuff will appear in future bits, but if there's something you'd especially like to see, please let me know below in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this vid, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Retro Bits.